spermatogenesis. First difference I already told, because oogenesis is initiated in the embryonic developmental stage when a couple of million gamete mother cells are formed in the fetal ovary. Million gamete. This was very important. So when the girl is in the mother's womb, that time itself in her ovary, millions or million, couple of million, that means 1 to 2 million gamete mother cell, that is oogonia, is already formed. And after birth, no more oogonia is formed. So whatever oogonia the girl has is from the time she was in the mother's womb. Okay. And after birth, these oogonia start dividing and enter into the prophase 1 of the meiotic division. That means first meiotic division's prophase phase, and it gets temporarily arrested, and that is known as the primary oocyte. So if somebody asks the definition of primary oocyte, that is the oogonia or the gamete mother cell of in a female at birth develops in starts cell division, enters into the prophase 1 of meiotic division, and gets temporarily arrested, and that cell is known as, in that prophase 1 of meiotic division cell is known as primary oocyte. Okay, then the primary, and this is in the ovary. Okay, inside the ovary. So in the primary oocyte, they all, so many primary oocytes get formed in the ovary. Okay, and all arrested at the prophase 1, and they start getting covered by a layer of granulosa cells. So the layer of and then it becomes the primary follicles. So as the child girl grows from birth to puberty, so many follicles degenerate in those years. So at puberty, only 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles are only left. That means it started at 1 to 2 million, and it by puberty it is only 60 to 80,000 primary follicles. Okay, in left in each ovary. So each ovary has 60 to 80,000 primary follicles. Then as after puberty, the primary follicles get covered by another layer of granulosa cells, and it is known as the secondary follicle. Then soon secondary follicle transforms into tertiary follicle, and tertiary follicle is characterized by an antrum, that means a fluid filled cavity. That means the cell is covering and it will have an antrum, and this is the primary oocyte. So now the oocyte is still primary. Okay, till tertiary follicle it is still till secondary follicle it is primary oocyte. By the time it becomes tertiary will have more layers: theca, inner theca interna, outer theca externa, outer theca externa, and theca interna, and then it has an antrum. This is a tertiary follicle. Okay, then it has a oocyte also. So by this time, in tertiary follicle, the oocyte develops into the secondary oocyte. That means the meiosis 1, that means it was arrested at prophase 1, it completes the meiosis process and it becomes a secondary oocyte. So in a tertiary follicle, the oocyte is secondary. In primary follicle, it is primary oocyte. Secondary follicle, it is primary oocyte. But in tertiary follicle, it is secondary oocyte. But in the process of secondary oocyte, there is an unequal division. Okay, and it forms a secondary oocyte along with a tiny first polar body. So basically the agenda is that they want to create a ovum is also the largest cell in the body. So to produce a ovum, there must be an unequal division so that more nutrition, more cytoplasm is going into one single cell, and the other cell has a very few less cytoplasm or negligible cytoplasm, so that it is not dividing further. So it forms a big tertiary secondary oocyte by unequal division, completion of meiosis 1. The secondary so next, the tertiary follicle changes into a mature follicle, or known also called as the Graafian follicle. Okay, so this is the Graafian follicle. It has layers. It has a big antrum. So the antrum is bigger than the tertiary follicle, and it has a secondary oocyte. So what happens to Graafian is, by the Graafian follicle time, the secondary oocyte will develop a zona pellucida. That means a acellular layer covering the secondary oocyte. So the Graafian follicle ruptures and the secondary oocyte or the ovum is released from the ovary, and that process is known as ovulation. Release of a secondary oocyte from the Graafian follicle from the ovary is known as ovulation. Okay, so we have briefly discussed about both spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So we can see a diagrammatical representation, so it is very easy to understand. So basic difference is oogenesis starts at fetal life, and this starts at puberty only. Okay, then it has both mitosis plus meiosis. This is mostly only meiosis. There is no mitosis after birth. Okay, so because all the number of cells are restricted, limited only. They don't make more cells. So that means there is no mitosis. There is only meiosis here. The first mitosis differentiation, many cells are formed. One of them develop, some of them develop for to primary spermatocyte. Then first meiotic division, it becomes haploid. Second, then you have learned all this. And in female side, oogonia becomes mitosis. All this in female fetal life. Okay, they became primary oocyte, gets arrested in prophase 1. Then they give birth. Childhood, by puberty, the number of cells decrease to 60 to 80,000. Then they undergo secondary the second meiosis, and it is unequal yeah, unequal parts. So that is for secondary oocyte and first polar body. This has very less cytoplasm, so it doesn't differentiate further. Secondary oocyte again undergoes meiosis 2 to form the ovum, and this occurs in the adult reproductive life. That means after fertilization. So only after fertilization is the secondary oocyte getting converted into the ovum and the second polar body. That means after a sperm comes and fertilizes it. Before that, in our body, it is only at the secondary oocyte level. So secondary oocyte is also arrested at one of the stages of meiosis 2, that is metaphase 2. So it will complete its meiosis 2 only after fertilization and form the ovum. So this is a very commonly asked question. Primary oocyte is arrested at prophase 1, and secondary oocyte is arrested at metaphase 2 of the meiosis. Okay, and ovum is only formed after fertilization. So that's all. I think everything is understood. Common questions asked here in this is